099 Pinjarra Williams Road. The sign on the solid brick mailbox read. I stopped my brand new Porsche 911 Carrera next to a long white wooden fence. About 100 meters inland stood a one-story house with a terrace. Raising my glasses, I looked at the white wooden fence, the gravel driveway framed by dwarf lemon trees, the large green lawn in front of the house, indicating that it was well looked after. Behind the house towered a forest. I got out of the car, breathed in the fresh morning air, and something inside stirred. Woke up, pinched. There was a feeling of déjà vu, but I knew that until yesterday I had not even suspected this small town. Shaking off the confusion, I looked at the clock. 7:30, everything according to plan. Having set the car alarm, I opened the gate in the low fence and went to the house. Having climbed 3 steps, I knocked on the half-open door, then again, but louder. The house was silent. I took off my glasses, hooked the bow on the shirt open on the chest, and looked at the clock. The hands on the massive dial showed 7:32. It was strange, we had agreed on this time. I couldn't stand unpunctuality, although in this godforsaken place, there was apparently no hurry. I wondered if Michael had mixed something up. Rummaging in the pockets of my light-collared trousers, I took out a folded piece of paper, unfolded it, read the address and the name of the owner. I put the piece of paper in my pocket and knocked again, but more insistently. When no one answered, I opened the door and shouted into the house. "Anyone alive?" I called inside.
"Yes, why not?"
A cheerful female voice was heard behind me.
"You must be James."
I turned around, and in front of me stood a smiling woman of about 60 to 65 years old. Her grey hair gathered in a bun, in her hands pruning shears, and an armful of long vines of grapes. "Yes, it's me, and you are Kim?" I said. "Nice to meet you."
"Welcome. How was your trip?"
the woman asked. "Thank you, great."
"I've been working in the garden since morning, until it's too hot. I didn't notice when you arrived. Sorry."
The woman fussed. "Everything is fine, don't worry."
"Now I'll wash my hands and open the gate for you."
Kim hurried. "Don't worry, I'll do it myself." I returned to the car, opened the gate and drove into the area. The wheels rustled on the gravel. Again, some kind of déjà vu, and an oppressive, anxious feeling. Okay, I need to look around. There shouldn't be any special surprises in such a remote place.
"Come in, I'll show you your room."
We entered the house, a large, airy room with a high ceiling that went down to huge windows, served as a living room, kitchen, and dining room. I didn't like country houses, especially in this Australian style, but for some reason this one immediately felt calm. The old-fashioned furniture didn't irritate me, it was even cozy. Kim turned into an arched doorway in the middle of the room. I followed her. This part of the house was a wide, long hallway, with doors on both sides. It reminded me of a motel. A large family must have lived here at one time. Otherwise, why would there be 8 bedrooms? I figured. The hallway ended with a sliding glass door to the back terrace. Kim opened it, and a cold wind blew on me. A small field, flooded with sun, opened up before my eyes, and behind it, like a wall, stood a dark forest from which the voices of birds came. I felt anxious again. My stomach was scratching and aching. On the left, the terrace ended with a small 2-story extension. This extension is not visible from the facade. That's good, I thought.
"Well, here is your apartment. The key is in the door. You can drive the car here. Make yourself comfortable. I hope you like it. It's quiet here, not like in those big cities. Everyone there has long gone crazy."
The hostess smiled.
"And in the meantime, I'll make you breakfast."
Thank you, Kim. I'm not hungry. I have to work. I looked at my watch. 7:40. I have to hurry.
"You city people do not know how to enjoy life at all. You are always in a hurry somewhere. Welcome. If you need anything, ask. Michael paid for everything, told me about your preferences, warned that you need to work a lot. I will not disturb you.
Kim left. I stared at the forest with growing anxiety. I sensed that this time something was wrong, but I did not yet understand what. We will figure it out. I barely said out loud and went inside the extension. On the first floor, there was a small living room with a kitchen. Unlike the main house, it was freshly renovated with modern furniture and appliances. On the second floor, there was an open space for an office. There was a table and chair by the large window, a laptop and a printer on the table, and a small satellite dish was screwed to the wall behind the window to the right. The door on the left led to the bedroom, and the bathroom adjoined the bedroom. I sat down on the bed and leaned back. After all, Michael knows me well. To drag a mattress of the right elasticity to such a wilderness, I can imagine the task. He knows how important comfort is to me. Okay, to work. I turned on the laptop. The boot data ran across the monitor. I watched as the dish tried to catch a satellite signal on its own. In this wilderness, the internet is a great luxury. I launched several programs, one of which was a mail program. So, while all this is loading, I need to look around. I went around the house, got into the car, and parked it on my side near the terrace. I unpacked my luggage in the bedroom, laid out my things in the closet, took a small sports bag, and went down. While I didn't have a clear plan of action, I needed to check something. The forest opposite beckoned and frightened. I resolutely walked across the meadow into the forest darkness. All the windows of the house faced other sides. Of course, the owner could be somewhere nearby, but this did not bother me much. The morning was hot. The sun had suffered enough to burn the grass. Steam was coming from the ground. Midges were circling around me and trying to get into my nose, ears, eyes. All this was irritating, so I prefer cities, without all this natural splendor. As soon as I entered the forest, the midges fell behind. I was enveloped in a pleasant coolness, birds singing, thick smells of rotten leaves and bark. Rays of sun broke through the trees, but they did not reach the ground. I walked a little forward. A huge branch lay in the way, apparently broken off during the storm. I wanted to sit on it, but did not. I opened the bag, took out the pistol with a short barrel, screwed on the silencer that was lying in the rag, inserted the cartridges into the receiver, and checked the bolt. Fired several times upwards so as not to leave marks on the trees. They could see, and I did not need that. The silencer worked perfectly. Barely audible pops were absorbed by the light noise of the forest. All is well. I put the pistol back in the bag and hurried home. I put the pistol in the safe, took a shower, changed clothes, checked how the computer boots up, realized that this would take a long time, decided to go and explore the surroundings. I pulled onto the road, right or left? I decided to go right. I remembered that when I first drove into town, the first thing I came across was a local hotel. I'll have breakfast there. I didn't know if there were any other cafes in this place, but the fact that there was a hotel here suggested that I should find out more about this place. So, here is the Dwellingup Hotel itself. A small building from the last century, with a veranda under a canopy. On the veranda about 5 tables, hanging pots with withered flowers, some flower beds with gnomes. In short, everything as I like. Parking in front of the entrance for 20 places. On the side are 2 old Holden utes with bull bars. I parked my new white Porsche in the center. They drove it to me yesterday evening, so I haven't had time to enjoy it yet. I love the smell of new cars. It really invigorates me. Michael advised me to take something brutal, preferably with a bull bar and all-terrain. But I gravitate towards the beautiful, expensive, and comfortable. I can't help myself. Michael himself taught me luxury. It's too late to give advice, but he didn't insist. I opened the door to the room. The bell rang. The smell of chips, sourdough, and cheap draft beer hit my nose. I looked at my watch. The hands on the massive dial showed 9 o'clock. Breakfast time, actually. I looked around, opposite the bar, quite shabby looking. Shelves with alcohol and different types of glasses on the wall. A garland with faded flags stretched over this splendor. On the right is a small nook with a barrel and a bar stool for it. On the left is a small room with several tables and an arch into a more spacious room. I went into this room. It turned out to be cool here. Another arch went in a row. By the noise and smell, I realized that there was a kitchen there. At the end of the room, there was an exit to the inner courtyard. The sun was blazing there. Plastic chairs stood on the tables, and sunbeams went from them into the hall. In the middle of the hall sat 2 men about 50 years old. Each had a mug of beer. In the middle of the table was a dish lined with paper and a mountain of chips in it, of course. I wanted to get out of here. At that moment, a waitress came out of the kitchen. She looked about 20 to 22 years old, a tight straw-colored braid, big blue eyes, and a sweet smile. A black t-shirt hugged her elastic, juicy body. Black denim shorts almost cracked on her steep hips. Average height, 170 centimeters. Very attractive, but not to my taste. I like more subtle girls, brunettes with a bitchy look. This girl was too pretty.
Good morning, how are you?
She smiled. Good morning, everything is fine. How are you? I felt awkward, turning around and leaving. Although when did you, James, suffer from such decency?
Have you just arrived?
She glanced out the window, saw my parked Porsche. Her eyes gave out a mixture of surprise and admiration. She clearly did not expect to see such a class car in the hotel parking lot.
Do you need a room?
She asked hopefully.
Or are you just passing through?
Thank you. I already have a place to stay. The girl was clearly disappointed with my answer.
You're probably staying with Kim.
She suggested, a little offended. Yes, that's right. You guessed right.
What's there to guess about? If you didn't rent a room with us, then it means Kim's. No one else in our city rents out rooms. Where are you from and for how long are you staying with us?
A few days of vacation in such a beautiful place. A good idea, right? I said cheerfully.
Absolutely, we have a wonderful place here. Only all the tourist places are open on weekends, and today is Monday. You'll have to stay with us for more than a few days.
She blurted out hopefully.
Are you from Perth to us?
The girl continued, not losing hope of finding out where I was from. No, I'm from Sydney, I lied. The girl's eyes widened and flattered even more.
Jesus, Sydney.
She looked around her eatery and asked a little embarrassingly,
What have you forgotten with us?
Well, first of all, I wanted to have breakfast. Is that possible? The waitress chirped something about their signature meat pie with salad and chips. I almost threw up. I asked if there was something simpler, like an English breakfast. She said no problem.
Have a sit, please.
I returned to the hall with the counter, sat down by the window. The girl followed me. Cutlery appeared in her hands from somewhere. She put it on the table.
My name is Julie.
She introduced herself. I'm James. Nice to meet you, Julie.
I can show you our places. There is still a long wait until the weekend. Why should you be bored alone?
She was clearly flirting with me ineptly. She was standing in front of me with her fingers half tucked into the tight pockets of her shorts, swaying her hips a little. She knew she was pretty and apparently had a reputation as the first beauty in the village. But to me, it was all childishly ridiculous.
Would you like drink, James? Coke a beer.
She smiled radiantly, showing her even white teeth. Oh, do you have coffee? I asked hopefully.
Absolutely. Everything will be fine now. Make yourself comfortable. I'll be back soon.
And she fluttered into the kitchen. The table was wooden and slightly sticky. I took off my glasses and did not dare put them on the table. Hung them by the neck of my tennis shirt, took out my phone and called the only number saved in it. There was a delay at the other end of the line. Michael, hi. Yes, everything is settled in perfectly. Yes, the hostess is nice. She does not ask unnecessary questions, but it is obvious that she really wants to. By the way, special thanks for the mattress. I laughed. I set the computer to boot. If everything goes as I think in a couple of days, I will send the first data. The waitress put on the table fried eggs with fried bacon and salad with old leaves, a couple of toasts and Americano coffee. Thank you very much.
You are welcome.
The waitress beamed. I waited until she moved away. Michael, are you sure that they are here? Can I trust your informants? Well, okay, send me satellite images by email. I disgustedly pulled out the yellowed leaves from the salad. The rest was thickly seasoned with fragrant oil. Damn it! The countryside? I cursed. I say that this is the countryside. They usually don't go to places like this. Yes, I took it, but it's better to save the silver. Too risky. If the team is needed, I will let you know. Thank you. I will try to rest. Putting the phone away, I examined the plate again and pushed it aside, taking a sip of coffee. I winced. Yes, Mayfair, London, no less. Leaving $10 on the table, I hurried to leave this hospitable establishment. I rode around the town for about an hour, exploring it. Dwellingup is located 105 kilometers from Perth, along the southwestern highway. It was surrounded by forest. There are many tourist routes, walking and cycling trails. The old railway also works as a tourist attraction. Information booklets taken from the hotel said that it used to be used to deliver timber. Now people here are engaged in growing fruits, keeping livestock, and tourism brings a little to the city treasury. The places are really beautiful. A lot of water, meadows, and everything is surrounded by forest. People like this, city dwellers, come for a couple of days to relax from the bustle of big cities. I would go crazy from this magnificence. I hope I get stuck here for a week at most. People here do not have mobile phones, and the internet. I saw a phone booth near the post office. It is unknown whether it works. People learn news about the big world from the radio and from visiting tourists. Even television works whenever it wants. It's strange that they got here, I thought. In their place, I would hide in a big city, and not in a seedy place, with narrow roads where two cars can barely pass each other. The roads were like drunks winding among the trees. The sun was breaking through the dense foliage, reflecting off the windshield with sunbeams that tried to jump into the eyes. And on the other hand, if something happens, everything can be attributed to wild animals. Although, what wild animals, snakes and spiders, are the most that can be dangerous in these places. That's why I don't like the forest. Michael was informed that a small group of 5 to 6 individuals could be hiding here. Okay, we'll figure it out. It was getting on for lunch, and I hadn't even had breakfast yet. While driving around the town, I noticed a couple of cafes, but they were on the weekend. The local population doesn't go to cafes, and tourists mostly come on weekends. I had to go back home. Kim would probably be happy to offer me her cooking. I headed towards the house. The gate was open. Apparently, Kim decided to keep it open so that I could freely enter and leave. I reached my terrace and then saw Kim. She was picking lemons from small lemon trees, standing in a row along the gravel path.
Hi, James. Are you hungry?
Kim asked me. Hungry? I answered honestly.
Well then, you're just in time. Come into the dining room. Lunch is ready.
With pleasure, I answered and walked through the terrace into the main house. Kim followed me with a small basket of lemons.
Please sit down. Today we have baked fish with vegetables, I hope. You like it?
Sounds tempting. I sat down at a large dining table, no less than 14 seats, and probably quite a lot of people lived here at one time. Kim laid an open-work fabric napkin in front of me. Everything was. Clean, pleasant country music was playing quietly on the radio. As you understand, I am not a fan of all kinds of country. But nothing irritated me in this house. Everything was somehow acceptable, and even cozy, as if I had come home to my mother, I thought, and immediately my chest began to clench. Ache, a lump rose in my throat. So, wake up, James. I drove away, disturbing thoughts and feelings. A glass pitcher of homemade lemonade appeared on the table. This was really good. I poured fresh lemonade into a large glass and immediately drained it. Kim served a large plate with baked fish and vegetables. Freshly sliced lemons lay in a mountain on a separate plate. Now that's what I call it. Thank you, Kim. It looks great.
Yes, it's all our own, natural, fresh. The fish was swimming in the local river this morning. I picked the vegetables from the garden an hour ago.
Kim sat down opposite and poured herself some lemonade. Oh, you won't have lunch?
I had a good breakfast. I'll have enough energy until dinner. I don't need much. And you eat. You're young, healthy. You should eat well.
She looked at me with maternal warmth. She was pleased to see how I greedily devoured her cooking.
It's quiet here, far from the big cities. What's there to do in these stone forests, where man is a wolf to man? So, you decided to get out of there. We all returned to the land, some sooner, some later.
I nodded in agreement. Yes, it's really quiet, even strange. Something is happening everywhere, but for you, it's as if time has stood still. Probably the worst thing that could happen is if a chicken doesn't lay an egg, or a goat runs away into the forest. Kim's face became tense, and her lips pressed together.
Anything can happen,
she said hoarsely, then looked back at the entrance as if she was afraid that someone would come in now.
Strange things have started happening here. A week before you arrived, the Smith's cow was mauled, and yesterday the Barnes's goat disappeared, went off into the forest and never came back, although it always came in the evening.
Maybe wild animals, I suggested doubtfully.
Oh, what are you saying? There are no wild predators here. We don't even have kangaroos.
Kim shook her head. She almost whispered,
Only the Smith's cow wasn't eaten. It was gutted. The entrails were hung all over the barn on purpose, as if for fun. The cow didn't have a heart. Everything else was intact, but the heart was gone.
She said hoarsely, Do animals do that?
Have you told anyone about this?
I didn't notice a police station in your town. The woman waved her hand dismissively.
Who can you tell here? The police are only in Pinjara, and our ranger shows up once a month. He won't listen. They'll blame it all on the local alcoholics. Our alcoholics aren't violent. Well, they drink quietly. Don't bother anyone. Everyone here knows each other like the back of their hand.
So the ranger doesn't come here often, and when is he supposed to arrive? I asked. Kim thoughtfully looked up and started counting something on her fingers.
In 10 days, maybe sooner or later. She shrugged. It varies.
Maybe we should call him. Let him come and figure out what's going on in his area. Kim threw up her hands in disappointment.
There was one near the post office, but when it was closed it stopped working, and mobile phones don't work here. Visitors say the signal is bad.
I nodded in agreement. I had a satellite phone, and a simple mobile won't work here. You're completely cut off from the world, I said.
Maybe it's for the best.
The woman sighed. I finished my lunch, looked at my watch. It's noon. I need to get to work. I thanked Kim for the delicious lunch and headed to my apartment.
James, if you need drinks you can take them. I didn't have time to. Put cola in your refrigerator. If you want lemonade, I'll make it and bring it.
Thank you. I'll come down later. I went up to my office, turned on the laptop. All the necessary programs and updates were downloaded. The first thing I did was open the mail program. 2 letters. Let's see. The first one had pictures. The screen showed black and white pictures taken by a satellite a few days ago. Judging by the image, there were 6 individuals, large and moving quickly. According to the coordinates in the photos, they were hiding about 20 kilometers to the east of the village. I opened the next letter. There were detailed maps of the area. I sent them to the printer. It made a noise, swallowed the paper, and soon jumped out with printed drawings. So they spotted them here. With a red marker, I outlined a small circle in the forest, here and here. It looks like they are approaching. If they do not slow down, then tomorrow they will be nearby. Great. In the evening, I need to go there. Judging by the map, it is about 10 kilometers from here. I looked out the window. 2 cows were grazing peacefully by a small lake on the left. 2 more were lying in the shade of the trees and driving away flies with their tails. The forest cast a shadow on the meadow, as if offering its coolness to every exhausted traveler. So, no police, no communication with the outside world. Too bad, choir there was a place, I thought, and immediately interrupted myself. Why was it? Maybe everything will be fine. After a delicious lunch, I wanted to lie down. I quickly took a shower and plopped naked on the bed. The air conditioner was working at full blast. Fatigue spread throughout my body. I hadn't managed to get a good night's sleep the night before. I landed at Perth International Airport at 11:30 p.m. The flight from London takes more than 16 hours. It's tiring. Michael's man met me at the airport, gave me everything I needed, and drove me to a hotel in the center of Perth. My brand new Porsche was already waiting for me in the hotel parking lot. Let's say this is my compensation for the temporary inconvenience. Michael knows that I prefer to work in big cities and preferably not in Australia, but here is a simple combo: the Australian wilderness. Although the hotel was the best in the city, their mattresses still need to be changed. The time difference also made itself felt. I tossed and turned half the night. In the end, I managed to sleep for 2 hours. I left here early in the morning. After about 40 minutes, I opened my eyes. There was an anxious silence around. Something had changed. A short sleep gave me a surge of energy. The clock showed 13:15. I wanted some fresh lemonade. I quickly got dressed and went downstairs. Already in the corridor, before reaching the main room, I heard Kim's voice coming from the veranda. Who was she talking to? I thought, and heard a slightly hoarse male voice. Kim did not say that she was expecting guests. Okay, you never know. A neighbor came for lemons. I went out onto the veranda. Kim and a man of about 60 years old, of average height and a solid build, were sitting at a large table. His red beard almost completely covered his face, accentuating his gaze on his piercing green eyes, in the depths of which there was cold. Despite the heat, the guest was dressed in a canvas jacket and waterproof trousers. On his feet were rough, dirty work boots. A large backpack stood on the steps of the veranda. Most of all, he looked like a geologist. Seeing me, the man stood up.
Matthew.
He introduced himself by holding out his hand. I studied him for a second and then gave him mine. His handshake was strong, calloused, and rough. Kim smiled. Her face was flushed.
And we have guests this morning in the village. They say they walk all night. James, sit down, please. Do you want anything?
You said that I could take a case of cola in my refrigerator.
Of course.
Kim left the table and headed for the kitchen. I followed her. When I was already in the house through the window, I saw how the man discreetly sniffed his palm, with which he shook my hand and winced.
Here's your cola.
Kim pointed to several boxes standing in the corner.
I only drink my own homemade lemonade. Maybe you'll have some, cold and fresh.
I won't refuse, I said, and while she was getting lemonade out of the fridge, I quickly sniffed my fingers. An unpleasant smell hit my nose, so much so that my teeth clenched.
Sit with us, James. It's not every day you meet such interesting people.
It's better never to meet them, I thought. We went out onto the veranda and sat down at the table.
It's scary to walk through our forest at night. Tell Matthew about your work. It's so exciting.
Your guest must not be interested.
The voice sounded with a grin. Silently sipped the lemonade and continued to look at him.
We collect folklore.
The guest looked at me. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly.
We go to villages, towns, looking for something unusual. Fairy tales, legends, and myths. If you have something of your own.
The geologist folklorist looked at me questioningly.
We are interested in everything. James, are you here for a long time? Kim said that you're also on a business trip.
Well, my work has just begun. There are a lot of you storytellers. Here we'll see how it goes. How many of you are there and where are you staying? I asked.
There are 6 of us. My colleagues went to the hotel, and I stopped. At your gate, the people here are hospitable. The owner offered lemonade, so I went in to rest. It's hot today.
It's always hot in December in Australia, I said with a little sarcasm. Kim looked at me, and the guest in bewilderment. Our strange conversation was more like a conversation between old enemies, but she did not ask about it. She was clearly warned that my work is very difficult and important, and I do not like when people ask unnecessary questions. She was paid a decent amount of money, so she will remain silent.
It's nice here, Kim. Thank you for your hospitality.
Matthew smiled broadly and stood up.
If you don't mind, I'll go and see how the others are settling in. I'll come again this evening, okay?
Absolutely. I'll be glad to see you again.
Matthew picked up his huge heavy backpack, threw it over one shoulder and walked to the gate.
What a nice man, don't you think?
She asked when the guest had left.
It's just strange that he's wearing a canvas jacket. Isn't he hot?
The woman thought about it. I don't think so, I answered dryly. Thanks for the lemonade. I have to work. I hurried to my room, locked it with a key. I rubbed my hands furiously with soap. Somewhere we screwed up. I sat down at the computer. I quickly typed out a letter. They arrived. 6 individuals, large, details later, and sent it. I went to the window. It would be a pity to lose all this. A great pity. I need to look around. In the light they attacked. They won't be able to. I thought out loud. I decided not to take the gun. Of course it was dangerous, but it was not worth provoking the individuals with a weapon yet. No need to give them an extra chance to kill themselves. I jumped into the car and rolled out onto a narrow road, having driven 200 meters from the house. I stopped on the side of the road, turned off the engine and got out. I stepped under the canopy of trees, inhaled the air. The thick smell of aliens stood like a wall. A few hours ago, there was not even a hint. Based on the first above-described check of the territory, I screwed up somewhere. The presence of individuals was not detected. I felt devastated and disappointed. How did I manage to leave a trace? I tried to move carefully, not clinging to anything, not touching the trees, not breaking branches and bushes. I lose my grip. I told Michael that nature is not my thing. In the concrete jungle, I can spot them right away. Then it's just a matter of technique. But in the countryside, my intuition starts to fail me. According to all calculations, they should have arrived tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Now I need to find out if it's the same group from the satellite images or another one that hasn't been noticed or accounted for. If there is another group, then it's unlikely they'll start without it, which means I have at least one more night. But if these are the same ones, then my respects. They're too seasoned, and I'll have to call for backup. With heavy thoughts, I returned to the car. I quietly rolled up to the parking lot in front of the hotel. Here I was in full view of everyone sitting inside. I didn't care much. They wouldn't dare in daylight. I walked briskly to the door. The bell rang and I was immediately immersed in the atmosphere of a bar party. Laughter, music, conversations. A cacophony of beer smells, cheap food, and a curtain of cigarettes. The fun was happening in the hall on the left. There was no one behind the bar again. But then Julia's figure appeared in the arch. This time she was wearing a white short sundress and white sneakers. It was obvious that my appearance was unexpected for the girl, considering how I left in English this morning. There were several emotions on her face at once: confusion, surprise, genuine joy. She threw up her hands and almost ran in my direction. I smiled broadly at her.
Hi, James. How are you? Are you back? We have so many guests today. Come in.
She chattered. The girl was excited. It's not every day in these parts that there are so many events. You promised to show me everything here in the morning. I decided that I shouldn't postpone the tour when your shift ends. I'll pick you up if you don't mind.
Yes, I remember.
The girl hesitated.
Excuse me. We have new guests here, bearded ones with big backpacks.
She fell silent mid-sentence, but then immediately began to chirp again.
My morning shift is over. I'm free until PM. This hotel is our family business. My father and brother are sitting with the guests. Let's go introduce them. The new guests tell such interesting stories.
Julia suggested to me hopefully. Two feelings were clearly fighting in her: to listen to the tales of these bearded men, or to leave with this handsome man. Thank you for that, Julia. Some other time. I made a movement towards the exit, and then cold fingers timidly touched my wrist.
Wait a minute, I'll just warn my father.
And she rushed into the depths of the establishment. I didn't even doubt her choice. Even if it were her working hours, she would find a reason to leave work, I thought with a grin. I went out onto the sunlit veranda, put on my sunglasses. A haze was rising from the asphalt in the parking lot. The clock showed 14:20. It turns out the creatures arrived in the city 2 hours ago. I miscalculated. It's good I'll act according to the circumstances. More than 4 hours until sunset. The bell announced the opening of the door. Julia fluttered out like a cloud, her eyes shining with admiration. She looked at me, then at my car, as if not believing in the happiness that had suddenly fallen on her. I invited her to the car with my hand.
Oh, I forgot my purse.
The girl hesitated. Why do you need a purse? Do you have a map of the area there? Julia burst into ringing laughter. I pressed the key fob, and the car chirped pleasantly. Having overcome her excitement, the girl got into the car. I started the engine and it rumbled smoothly, hinting at its power and strength. Julia looked at the dashboard with surprise, touched the expensive silk leather of the chair, inhaled the aroma of the new car and my perfume. Genuine delight made her sweet face childish. I turned on the air conditioner and music. We quietly drove out of the parking lot. A strong smell of the kitchen, tobacco, and sweat hung in the car. I felt sick. I'll have to be patient, James. Your job doesn't give you a choice. I hope everything will be resolved quickly and soon you will be rushing towards the airport. I reassured myself. Where are we going? I asked at the fork when leaving the parking lot. The girl pointed her finger to the right. Having overcome the initial excitement, she began to shower questions, and then immediately answers. Probably such a defensive reaction from the overwhelming overexcitement.
And what brand of car is it? I've never seen one like this, even in magazines.
I knew that you would like my princess. That's why I ordered. Michael a Porsche. I grinned to myself.
People usually come to us in jeeps or utes come here. You understand that our places are wild, roads sometimes get washed away, and trees fall from strong winds. But don't worry, it's a quiet season now. Of course you can't get everywhere in your car, but it's okay. You can walk here and there.
I nodded, ready.
I really want to go to Sydney, but my parents won't let me.
And they're right not to. There's nothing to do there, I commented.
I want to become an artist or a singer.
The girl continued, ignoring my comments.
I'm always invited to sing at parties.
Sadness was heard in her voice. We passed a small farm. In the distance, I noticed a couple of tractors. How many farms are there in your city? I asked.
About 40. They used to say there were almost 100, but after the fire in the 60s, not everything was rebuilt. People moved away.
Do you often go to the big city? I needed to find out how mobile the population is here.
Oh, come on, I've only been to Perth twice. Once for the Royal Fair and another time when my mother needed to see the dentist, and that was when. We sometimes go to Pinjara when we need to buy clothes or for the hotel. And we get groceries delivered to the local store once every 10 days. The old people don't need the city, and the young people are bored here. Almost everyone has moved away. So I'm saving up money. I'm going to leave anyway. I'm already an adult and no one will keep me here. I'll go to Sydney, far away to the other end of the country. My whole life is there. Yeah. Why am I telling you? You can see it all for yourself.
She pouted like a child. We were approaching a fork.
We need to go left.
Julie said without enthusiasm. She quieted down a bit. A minute later, she pointed her finger at a small parking lot on the right. I turned into a packed parking lot and stopped. A wide path led into the forest. I beeped the alarm and we went deeper.
You have a private tour today. You're lucky. All the beauty is just for you. We are completely alone here.
Julie came to life again. We are not alone here, darling. I knew for sure that we were not alone. I felt it.
Have you met any celebrities?
She asked in a half whisper. Some, I answered. She looked at me with shining eyes again. My chips went to the sky.
You know, my friend now lives in Melbourne. We grew up together. She went to university. Imagine, she goes to concerts and even to the theater.
It started, I thought.
So, a couple of months ago she came to visit her parents and brought me Rondi's autograph. Have you met Rondi?
No, I don't know her. Her eyes widened. She looked at me and simply couldn't believe it.
She's the most popular singer now. I know all her songs. She's played on all the radio stations.
My chips in her eyes began to fall. In the meantime, we went out to the lake.
I keep my autograph in a special box.
The girl said boastfully.
When I live in Sydney, I hope that I can get a lot of autographs from stars. Now it's my hobby, you know?
I looked at her and smiled.
You're not interested, are you? You probably think that this is a fool who made this up.
I looked closely at Julie. 2 lines of tears ran down her face.
I will become famous and I will show you all, my parents and friends, and I will show you that I am not an empty shell.
I didn't say that you are an empty shell, I said calmly. If you want to achieve something, achieve it. Just believe me, tears will not help. I took a handkerchief out of my pocket and handed it to my interlocutor. Julie took it and turned away. I looked around. There was no one around, only rare birds calling to each other. But I knew that we were being watched. The girl calmed down and turned around. I lifted the girl by the shoulders. How many new guests are staying with you? Are they still waiting for their comrades? The girl looked at me with red eyes and touched my hand.
Everyone thinks that I can't become famous, but you believe.
She smiled warmly.
You are the only one who believes.
I lightly patted her on the shoulder, peering into the thicket of bushes behind her. Someone was moving there. I turned around, and at that moment soft girlish lips bit into my lips. I was taken aback for a second. I looked at the girl with widened eyes. Rapture and love were written on her face. The bushes parted, and a large bird came out of them. I breathed a sigh of relief. I put my hands on the girl's fragile shoulders, gently breaking the kiss, and pulled away. Julie opened her eyes and winced.
You didn't like it?
Here we go. How I hate scenes and situations like this, just know. Hysterics, please. Well, does it really have to happen here, on the withered grass? A picture of my temporary shelter flashed through my head. Not the Hilton, of course, but at least there was air conditioning and a good bed. I liked it, I lied.
Don't you want me? Is it because I'm not a metropolitan thing? Are you disgusted by people like me?
She asked with trembling lips. I sighed mentally. What a fool. Doesn't she understand that I will not become her ticket to the big life? But it was clear that this is exactly what she thought. I had to act according to the instructions, There was no choice. "Oh, what are you saying, baby? I liked you right away." I felt like we were being watched, but there was no risk. Pitt was just not comfortable. Half an hour later, I was buttoning my trousers, adjusting my unbuttoned watch, tired and sparse. Julie was lying on the trampled grass. Her heavy chest was spread apart and heaving frequently. The braid I was holding her by had unraveled like a light fan intertwining with the blades of grass.
It was wonderful.
The girl purred, raising herself on her elbows.
You are a beast.
You can't argue with that. I agreed with her mentally. She stood up and without thinking twice ran to the lake. Raising a bunch of splashes, she dived under the water. Emerging, she shouted,
James, come here. The water is so cool. You just have to dive in.
She happily waved her hands at me. I had already buttoned my shirt and was just standing there looking at the happy man. Of course, I will not go into any lake, but my memory gave me pictures from my distant childhood, when I also dived into the lake with my friends, and I felt good and serene, and my beautiful young mother sat on the shore, smiled at us, and wiped away tears. I realized that. She was crying only now. My heart ached again. I was born and grew up until the age of 5 in the Blue Mountains region near Sydney. The nature of that area is magnificent. Mountains, waterfalls, lakes, eucalyptus forests. I adored all of it. My mother had a small hotel that she inherited from her parents. We lived in it. My mother ran a business. Everything was wonderful. One day, a very respectable, handsome man came to us and stayed for 2 days. His name was Michael. For some reason, my mother was very upset by his visit, but I was very happy because he gave me a bunch of outlandish toys. Cars, a railroad, an airplane, such wealth for a 5-year-old boy. I was just happy. Mam was on edge. I heard her crying in her room, but I didn't understand why. 2 days later, Mam told me that she was very ill and had to go to hospital, and during this time, I would live with Michael in the big city because he was our only distant relative. We had no one else. I was happy. Would I really see Sydney? I had heard so much about it. I had postcards with views of this big city. Since then, I have not been to the Blue Mountains and have not seen my mother again. Okay, damn it, enough. I drove this whole obsession away from me. Julie was standing on the shore and slowly spinning, exposing her elastic body to the slanting rays of the sun. She looked sexy, I noticed. Not bad at all. Okay, that's not why I came here. The office knows best. I'm just following instructions. I went up to Julie. She was smiling.
Let's repeat,
she asked, squinting her eyes mischievously. Not now. I looked at my watch. I have something else to do. Julie raised her hands, stood on tiptoe and kissed me on the lips.
Okay, let's go, handsome.
And she headed to the place where her clothes were lying.
You know, I'm ashamed to say, but it was my first time. That is, don't think that I'm ashamed of this, but
She got confused in the sundress and in the words. I know, you don't need to justify yourself for anything. Everything was wonderful. I calmed her down as best I could.
Really? I feel it too.
Her cheeks flushed. She quickly braided her wet hair into a braid.
I didn't tell you about this place.
Julie remembered. It's okay. The excursion turned out to be much more interesting than I expected, and she burst out laughing. We headed to the parking lot. The air was fresh and pleasant. We were no longer followed. I asked again how many guests were staying at their hotel. Julie answered that there were 5, but they were expecting another 6 to join them tomorrow. I thought so. The rest of the way, Julie hugged my hand tenderly, telling me how she would become famous when she came to Sydney. I nodded absent-mindedly, once again memorizing the location of the houses and the main roads. I stopped at the hotel. Julie quickly kissed me on the cheek, promising to show me everything again, and jumped out of the car. On the veranda at a high table stood a group of bearded men. There were 4 of them, Matthew was absent, tall with sloping shoulders and long arms. They were covered with hair so thickly that it seemed they had never taken off their canvas jackets. The table was covered with mugs of beer. They were smoking and laughing loudly. It was obvious that they were quite drunk. I went home, driving through the gate. I saw Kim coming out onto the terrace. She held a jug in her hands, half filled with lemons. I really wanted some cold lemonade. I stopped at the entrance, rolled down the window and asked, "May I count on a glass of your wonderful lemonade, ma'am?"
Of course, young gentleman. Come in.
She handed me a large glass, and I greedily drained it.
It's a hot day, isn't it?
Kim smiled. "Yes, it is a hot and hectic day. Thank you very much. Your lemonade is truly magical. I need a shower."
You're welcome. Dinner is at 7:30. I invited Matthew.
"I have a lot of work today and I don't eat dinner so early. If you would be so kind as to bring me my dinner by 9 p.m.
No problem, James. It's agreed.
I walked through the house to my unit. The first thing I did was take a shower, stood under the hot water for a long time. It was not easy to wash off the smell of the local princess. It haunted me. Having changed in fresh clothes, I was lying on the bed and thinking it was necessary to make a plan of action. Of course, you can call a team, and they will clean everything, absolutely everything. But I did not want to resort to extreme measures. I still expect to cope on my own. There are only 5 individuals so far. They are drunk, and even if they know who I am, they will also have to be careful if they do not want people to find out who they really are. I need to lure them into a field or forest. There I can easily deal with them. So, one of them will be here by 7:30. That's why I did not see him on the hotel veranda. It is unlikely that he will come here drunk. It means he is sleeping, gaining strength. Well, okay, I will act according to the situation. I opened the laptop, wrote a report and sent it. Let's see what Michael says about this. How they did not find the second group of individuals is unclear. The original instructions have become irrelevant. Tomorrow there will already be 11 of these creatures, and I alone will not cope. But today I have the opportunity to eliminate these 5 jerks. I fell asleep. I woke up suddenly. The room was dark. The silence was deafening. I, a city dweller, will never get used to such silence. It began. I knew exactly what had begun. They were somewhere very close. I jumped out of bed, turned on the light in the bathroom, quickly changed into black loose trousers, a wide dark shirt, and sneakers. Took the gun out of the safe, loaded it and tucked it into my belt. The clock showed 7:35. In 2 jumps, I overcame the stairs and ran out onto the terrace, opened the door to the main house, and dived into a long corridor. The light was on in the living room. The radio was quietly playing some cheerful song. I ran into the kitchen. "Fuck, fuck, fuck!" I screamed. Kim was lying in the middle of the kitchen. Her chest was torn open and gaped with a black emptiness. All her insides were lying nearby. Only her heart was missing. A pool of blood was spreading around. "Fuck!" A smile froze on her face. Her eyes looked at me with surprise but goodwill. "Fuck!" I took out my gun. Why was it necessary to touch the hostess? Forgive Kim for not being able to protect you. I ran out onto the veranda. 2 large lampshades illuminated the veranda itself and the dim gravel path to the gate. The table was half set for dinner. I looked back at the car standing in the shadows slightly to the side. After a moment, having got used to the darkness, I saw that my brand new Porsche was standing on the roof. 2 wheels were missing. The entire bottom was torn. Fuck. Okay, that was to be expected. I ran to the gate. Already halfway there, I saw a familiar figure appear in the gate. He was clearly taken aback and stopped. I was running at him with my hand outstretched. "I will not give you a single chance." I fired twice, point blank. 2 bangs and he fell on his back. -1. Running up to the former Matthew, I grabbed him by the legs and pulled him away from the gate under the lemon tree. I went out of the gate. The moon was shining brightly, not like in the city. The sky was strewn with stars. A cool breeze made the grass wavy. I crossed the narrow road to the black mass of the forest, stopped. I looked into the depths of the forest, trying to get used to the darkness. Listened to it, trying to hear what was impossible to hear. During the day, when my eyes got used to it, I went a meter deeper and sniffed. A slight smell of burning reached me. Damn, I swore quietly. So they decided to burn. Everything to hell. I went out onto the road and quickly walked towards the hotel. It was about 800 meters away. The road went serpentine. On one side there was a forest, on the other small fields and estates. Behind them, again forest. I had already passed 2 houses from Kim's house. The lights were on in the houses, but I knew that there was no one alive there. When the road turned again, a glow opened up before my eyes. There was a fire about a kilometer away from me. The air was filling with more and more smoke. Creatures, why did you come here? Why turn this place into a cursed place? Aren't megacities enough for you? Initially, when I just started working for the organization, my condition was that I wouldn't work in the countryside, because I knew how it would end. Michael persuaded me. He knows how to do it. But this would be the last time, that's all. I walked to the edge of the forest and stopped. In front of me was a hotel parking lot, well lit by lanterns. The lights were on in the hotel, but the windows were empty. The road on which I was standing forked after about 200 meters. To the right was the path to the big world. To the left into the wilds of the neighborhood, where I was with Julie this afternoon. From there came the screams of people and the barking of dogs. There was a fire there, the sky lit up yellow. Well, I don't have much time. Soon they'll see the fire in Pinjara and send help. Maybe some of the locals are already heading there for help. There's not a minute to lose. I ran across the parking lot and turned left from the hotel. Again, the forest was on the left and the field on the right. I kept in the shadow of the forest. Diagonally ahead, a large farm was burning. Who? I can't see anything, I heard. From the field came a receding howl. They're going into the forest, going away. I rushed to the field where several people were already crowded, mostly men with guns and several tearful women. I didn't see a single bearded man among them. Of course, they're in a different place now. What's going on? I ran up to the people. Everyone turned in my direction at once and stared with frightened eyes. Dark barrels of guns headed in my direction.
Where were you in town when the fighting started?
Asked a young, heavy-set man with a blonde hedgehog hair. I raised my hands and took a couple of steps back. I am not your enemy. A glow spread behind me, illuminating the faces of those present. The fire had completely engulfed the house and was now greedily devouring it.
We're on fire!
The plump woman screamed and ran off somewhere. The rest of the women followed her, but the men remained without lowering their weapons. You didn't answer, said the younger man. I sighed heavily and began to quickly explain that I was sleeping when I heard the noise, jumped out of my room and found Kim's torn body. My car was smashed. I ran along the road towards the hotel, saw that there was a fire on this side. I want to help. Do you think why I have a gun in my hands?
John, take the gun from our guest before he gets
hurt, said the man with the blonde hedgehog hair. Without taking my eyes off him, I said, I don't think this is a good idea. You shouldn't think, but give me the gun, otherwise your father will shoot your head off. A guy of about 25 interrupted me, coming up close. Do you think it's my fault that this is happening here? There were dead animals here before me.
They only touched animals, but as soon as you arrived, the guy
grinned angrily, poking the barrel at me. John took the gun from me and searched my pockets. Did I come here alone? And what about your new guests who... Arrived in the morning and started killing you in the evening? Where are they, huh?
Where are your guests? Where did they go? I tried to speak calmly.
But in the end I broke into a scream. The man grinned.
They warned you that you would try to shift all the blame on them. They said that they came for you, and that you are not a person.
I looked at these people in shock. Are you really so stupid that you do not understand that you are? Being deceived, you can't be so gullible as to believe the first people you meet. There were several killers, I said quietly, but again broke into a scream. And I am here alone. It was all them. They? A calm voice rang out. 4 bearded men in canvas jackets came out of the darkness.
You say they, but the blood on your fangs has not cooled yet.
I looked coldly at the bearded man. Do you think your stories will help you? I asked.
They already helped.
He smiled and raised his hand.
That's who attacked you.
In the light of the fire, he held a severed massive head with long fangs and a protruding tongue. The men gasped at once and the next. Second, several people fell on me, knocked me down, hit me in the face several times, twisted my arms and put me back on my feet.
This is a werewolf, a man who turns into a monster to devour others.
The folklorist threw the dead head aside, wiped his hands on his pants, and came up to me.
What do you say now, beast? Nowhere to run now.
You're the beast yourself. I grinned with my broken lips. Look at the people. There are 4 of them, and there should be 5. Don't be so stupid. They killed one of their own on purpose to shift all the blame onto me. The men looked at each other and began to whisper.
Why do we need this?
There was contempt in the bearded man's voice.
We warned you about him. Ask this dandy where he got his London accent from. We knew he would come here on a mission. There have never been wolves in Australia. They can't live long on this land. Australia is strangling them. This creature flew here on a business trip. If you don't want this to happen again, you need to kill him, and the sooner the better. Today is the night of the full moon, and he has a lot of strength today.
I was Australian by birth, but when I was 5 years old, I lost my mother and my father took me to London. My family roots go back to the 16th century. My family has always fought werewolves. We destroyed the last wolf in England in the 17th century. Since then we have been hunting them all over the world. That is why I am here. They came here in 5. Now there are 4, but tomorrow there will be 6 more. Think for yourself. What kind of normal people walk through the forests at night? What kind of myths and fairy tales do they collect? Look at them. They are hairy like animals. Look around. Could I have caused so many deaths and fires alone? I could have gotten into the car and left right when it all started here, but my car is lying torn apart without wheels. Why should I expose myself? I ran here. The men now pointed their guns at all of us. Their fingers on the triggers trembled. I looked into the eyes of the man with the hedgehog. Apparently, he was in charge here. It was obvious that he was thinking. I understood that if I couldn't convince the men, the whole operation would fail, and the creatures would escape again. I couldn't allow that. If you don't believe me, lock me in a barn somewhere, and if I'm a werewolf, I'll turn into one. But then you'll let these creatures escape. Suddenly, a girl ran up to the men and rushed towards me.
Dad, what are you doing?
Leave him, Julie. Go away from here. It's dangerous, and go help put out the house before he burns down the rest. We'll figure it out ourselves.
Julie poked her finger at her father.
You won't touch him because I love him and he loves me.
This was a surprise even for me, and at the same time my chance. I nodded my head. The bearded man winced contemptuously.
Who do you believe, Tony? The girl and the dog who fooled her. He must be killed now, otherwise it will be too late.
The girl squealed and rushed at the bearded man. He easily threw her aside and froze under the sights of several guns, and the rest were aimed at his people, who were holding only long knives. Okay, the individual
grimaced. If you're such fools, then let him kill you all. Lock you in the barn and watch him become a werewolf.
Tony looked at the bearded man from under his brows.
We will lock you all up and wait for reinforcements from the city. Knives on the ground, forward.
Tony pointed the direction with the barrel of his gun, and we moved. Across the field, me and 4 bearded men walked ahead. A meter behind us were our escorts. There were 4 of them, as I learned. Tony, Julie's father, John, Julie's brother, a short, grey-haired, nimble old man, and a man of about 40, apparently the son of this old man. A whole house loomed ahead. It's good that there was almost no wind that night, otherwise the town could have completely burned down. The worst thing was that no one could do anything to call for help. There were no phones, all the transport was destroyed, and no one would risk walking 25 kilometers to Pinjara through the dark forest. We approached a larger garage divided into 2 rooms. In each section, fluorescent ceiling lights were brightly burning. In the larger section, there was a wrecked tractor. The smaller room was empty. Apparently, this part of the garage was intended for 1 car. Tony turned to the old man.
William, do you have something there that can be used as a weapon?
No, all the gardening equipment is kept in the shed. Here are only spare parts from the tractor. What is left of it?
The old man's voice trembled. It would not hurt to tie them up, said Julie's
brother. Not necessarily. We shoot to kill if anyone tries to get out.
Tony said sternly.
William, when did your son leave?
About 40 minutes ago,
the old man answered.
That means help is close. Let the police figure out who they all are. We are not murderers, but if any of you try to escape, we will not think long.
The old man's second son still managed to leave for help. They are naive to think that help is on the way. Surely this guy's intestines are already wrapped around the nearest trees. There is no doubt about it. 4 bearded men were pushed into the garage with the tractor, and the garage doors were closed behind them. A large bolt closed the doors. I was pushed into the second half, and the door was closed, but the bolt did not click, which means this half was not locked.
The beast has jumped too much. This time they will definitely kill you.
A muffled voice of one of the individuals mocked behind the wall.
When they see that you are a werewolf, they will tear you to pieces. Hey look, he hasn't started to transform.
A curious eye appeared at the small gap between the door and the wall and watched the prisoner's ordeal for a few seconds. Not yet, John said with a chuckle.
Oh, these haven't gone what?
Tony's voice asked, a few seconds of silence and a negative answer. I knew that the individuals would try in every possible way to get out of the garage to kill me, so I had to be the first. Listen, if you are normal people, turn on your logic. Well, think about it. This is nonsense. I came to you myself. And where were they all? If I haven't transformed before then, I'm unlikely to become one later, even if you keep me here for 2 years. The wall of the neighboring garage was hit with such force that the door of my garage opened. I was sitting on the floor on the opposite side from the wall, behind which the bearded men were locked. 2 barrels were pointed at me, 2 more at the neighboring door.
Don't listen to this dog. It's his fault that you were attacked.
The voice died down for a few seconds.
We fight people like him. He's not alone here. There are not 2 of them, or even 20. There are hundreds. If they attack the village at once, nothing will be left of it. Listen, let him come to us, and we will deal with him ourselves. And then we will leave, and no one will bother you anymore.
Before you, no one really bothered you.
Tony's cold voice rang out.
Everything was calm until you, the Englishman, whoever you are, did not show up
here. Quick steps were heard.
Dad, James is not guilty of anything.
Julie, get out of here. No one is asking you whether he is guilty or not. The police will figure it out.
father answered rudely.
It all started with them and someone must answer for
it. Tony, kill the beast and it will all be over.
The bearded man persuaded.
You don't understand that these walls won't hold him. Only cut off his head. Check his gun. If we are werewolves, then there should be silver bullets in it. Otherwise you won't kill a werewolf. How would he cope with us alone if he didn't have silver bullets?
The individual convincingly spoke. I sat leaning against the wall and wiped the blood from my face, tiredly rubbed my eyes, and looked at my hand with the watch. I'll have to buy a new one, I said disappointingly, looking at the broken dial, behind which the hands froze. I unfastened the metal strap, took them off and threw them with force at the opposite wall of the garage. Don't be idiots, check, I said calmly.
Dad, I love him. We'll listen to him. He's telling the truth.
The men looked expectantly at John, who took my gun out of his belt, opened the cylinder and poured the bullets into his palm. Everyone froze. I looked at them calmly. He extended his hand inside my garage, putting his palm under the lamp. Silver sparkled in it. There was a deathly silence. Everyone looked at Tony, waiting for his decision, and the moon, like a huge eye, looked at him with curiosity. Of course, he was an adult and did not believe in fairy tales about werewolves and other evil spirits. It was 2001, the 21st century, damn it. But what he saw last night did not fit in his head. The creature that arranged the massacre and fire in his town did not resemble anyone else. Not a person, not a local animal, could not cause such a disaster.
Dad, believe him. He will not lie to me.
The girl rushed to me. The father caught her by the hand and pulled her back. I sat silently and looked at them. I was losing patience, but I gave them a chance, although Michael had already decided everything for everyone. The bearded men could not see this silent scene. This grown man, the unofficial leader of the town, always trusted his instincts and his daughter's intuition, and this time he decided to rely on her.
Dude, come here, but no nonsense,
Tony said sternly. The door of the neighboring garage shook with such a blow that the iron on the door bent.
What are you doing, fool? He will kill you all. Don't you dare, Tony. Don't you dare let him out.
One of the bearded men yelled. I sighed with relief and buried my forehead in the wall. You made the right decision, for your daughter, the right one, I said. Slowly, I began to get up from my knees.
You crippled him,
Julie shouted. Tony lowered his gun and took a step towards me. His son followed him. William and his son, standing opposite the door of the neighboring garage, watched me with interest, their guns pointed at the ground.
Time!
I jumped forward. Julie screamed. I knocked Tony off his feet, pierced John's stomach with my paws, tore the old man's throat and tore out his spine. The old man's son turned out to be brave. He managed to shoot and hit me in the shoulder, not paying attention to this. I bit his throat, and in one jump, returned to Tony. I tore off his genius head. In a normal voice, I said, "You made the right decision, but a stupid
one. Don't you dare. Don't touch them. Come to
us." People were straining themselves in the large garage trying to knock down the doors, but they held them tightly inside. Julie was kneeling next to her dead father, tears streaming down her cheeks. She was gasping for air like a fish on sushi. I turned to the garage, went in, picked up the abandoned watch, and put it on my clawed paw. A dull pain spread through my body. My bones began to rebuild. The fur was pulled into the skin, and the claws into the fingers. My long, narrow muzzle became flat. I looked more and more like a man. When the metamorphosis was over, I went up to the girl.
"Why?"
she whispered, and then rushed at me with her fists. I grabbed her hands, twisted them behind her back and pressed them to me, calmly said, "Otherwise they would have killed me." She knelt down in front of her father and silently sobbed.
Open the door, creature. I'll tear your head off.
someone screamed from the closed garage. I grinned with the corner of my lips, moved away from the quiet. Girl picked up the gun from the ground and unloaded it into the walls of the garage, picked up the second one and also emptied the clip. A few seconds later, the garage became quiet. No, I didn't delude myself into thinking that I had killed all the werewolf hunters, but that's none of my business. The cleanup team Michael sent can handle without me.
Why?
The girl screamed, wringing her hands. Your town shouldn't have suffered. That was my condition when I came here. I'm not aware of all the plans of my organization. I know that we are expanding, and nothing can stop us. Even in the royal family of Great Britain, our red wolf cub is growing up. He has already lost his mother, and there are high hopes for him. He faces the difficult task of uniting several continents, races, and cultures into one global system of our superiority. Unfortunately, not everything is simple with Australia. This land is protected by powerful spells from everything alien. For 200 years we have been trying to break this protection, but we cannot completely exterminate the indigenous population that protects the land of Australia. The current laws are too liberal and democratic. And while the spells of the Aborigines work, we cannot live here for long. I pulled the girl by the hand. Julie, let's go from here. No one touched your hotel. Now you must. Revive Dwellingup. You do not need Sydney or Melbourne. You must preserve this blessed place.
I will not go anywhere with you,
Julie whispered. She tried to break free from my hand.
It is better to die than to go with such a beast.
I smiled broadly. You cannot die. You are carrying my son.